We're two best friends.
Two mediums that live in a virtual dream house.
Have our podcast taped and find out what happens when spirits get real.
Real funny. By the way, if you don't like cuss words, Dana, what do we rate it?
We're rated M for mediumship or Matt's immature.
I thought it was Matt is awesome, but whatever. Enjoy this episode.
This is I'm a Medium.
Ask me how.
I'm a medium, so ask me how.
Hi, Dana.
Hi, Matthew. How are
Oh,
you today?
I'm really good. I'm plastic and fantastic. How you doing?
Good. We are living our full Barbie vision. I mean, if it's possible, you've gone more pink.
Yeah, but you know what's really funny is we're launching this on the week that Barbie's in theaters.
Yeah,
so we're not associated with them.
We're not. Which is funny because we've been kind of working on this whole rebrand, relaunch for weeks now. But Spirit knew that we were going to, that the relaunch of all of this meant to happen on the release week of Barbie.
Because we're Ken-ough.
You're such a Ken.
Dana Willie, I think we need to talk about the stuff that mediums and psychics say online.
We've done a psychic cleanup episode before, but it just when you think you've heard it all,
it just keeps coming.
It just keeps coming, and it's been a theme lately, and I kind of I like that we have this platform because we get to speak on the themes that keep coming up. And unfortunately, I don't know. I'm going to take a more positive spin on it. Because I was going to say, unfortunately, we have to do a lot of cleanup of readers that say a lot of stupid shit. I'm just going to say it. They say a lot of stupid stuff. But I'm glad that the way that I'm going to say this instead is that I'm glad that they find us, and so that we can inform them and help them out, and that they are able to find somebody. But I wish that we didn't have to do that. Like, I wish that there wasn't so much cleanup needing to happen, because I feel like most of my lives, when I go live, most of my readings end up being a lot of cleaning up misinformation. And that sucks, because I would rather just be able to just read and just be able to speak on behalf of the spirit world and just do what I was meant to be here to do. But maybe what I'm meant to do is do cleanup. I don't know.
Well, I think that we need to establish some stuff first before we can get into this topic, or reestablish some stuff. So if you listen to the podcast of Michael Mayo and Megan Elisa, he said that, and he made a really good point that I want to make sure I give him credit for, is that mediumship, parts of mediumship like mental mediumship and trance mediumship, only happens to the medium, nobody else in the room. Okay, so we're going to establish that before we get into anything else, of saying this is only coming from the psychic and the medium's perspective or their experience, and not necessarily everybody else in the room can experience what the medium's saying. It has been such a wild couple weeks of talking to not only clients, but also people on TikTok Live around the stuff that psychics say to them, and how jarring it can be, or how ridiculous it can be, or and it doesn't have any founding. So first thing I want to talk about is the low vibrational spirit. And I'm only laughing because it's ridiculous to say that one spirit, because of the way that they live their life, is low vibrational versus another,
or the way they died. Let's just say, let's just set there's a lot of reasons that one may have been perceived by a psychic or a medium as low vibrational. So maybe they did bad things in life. Maybe they died in an unfortunate manner, whether they took their own life, or maybe who knows, right?
Or they had an argument with you before they got in the car and passed, right? Like, It just it mine it just blows my mind.
Mhm.
So I don't like to talk about my readings too much, okay? Because I think that having a sense of confidentiality. But I did have somebody come to me and say that a really well-known medium had told them that their loved one was too low vibrational to have a conversation with them. And the look of devastation on this person's face was enough to where I got visibly upset. Visibly upset because it's so freaking disempowering to say that. And the ego and balls that somebody would have sitting there to somebody that's in pain, okay? Because when it discredits the love that the person has for the person on the other side, right? Or the relationship of somebody. But this is somebody's loved one
Mhm.
that is no longer here. And so they're not coming to you because they're like, tell me if I'm pregnant, right? Like happy news. It's not happy news. It's really tragedy. It's grief. It's loss. But this person in their development, I guess you can call it, in their developmental path, told that to the person I was reading for. And it just broke my heart. It broke my heart because that person had to live with that for quite a while before they were like, no, let me go try to get another reading because this doesn't feel true to me.
Mhm.
So I want to ensure every listener that they're fine. They're all in the same playing field. It's equal. Dana, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's really, I'm glad that we're establishing that first and foremost, that no matter who they were in life, no matter what they're passing, we can connect with all of them and they're all okay. I need to just establish that. I know that, like, for you personally and for me personally, we both had loved ones who passed in unfortunate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my first mediumship reading that I ever seeked out for myself, the one thing that I wanted to know is that they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I often think about, and I thought about it after hearing what had happened to your client. And I thought about, for if my reading that I would have seeked out, if they would have said something like that to me about my loved one, and it would have broken me. It would have absolutely broken me to hear that, because this person meant the world to me. And for years and years and years, I was worried that this person wasn't okay on the other side. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just seeking for some validation that they were around, that they were okay. And I would have been devastated. And so I feel like there's this overall responsibility that we have with our words. And what happens is, I feel, so let me back up for a second. Matt and I will tell all of you, you guys all have the abilities to be mediums, because soul to soul connection is the most natural thing your soul knows how to do. Mediumship is
Mm-hmm.
the most natural thing your soul knows how to do. It's getting out of the way and just having that soul to soul connection. There's a lot of reasons that as we get older and all of that, that it makes it more difficult. And that's kind of how Matt and I come in as development teachers to help you do that. We interpret a lot of things incorrectly and all of that. But because everybody has this ability on some level, what tends to happen is somebody has this aha moment of, oh, I can do this. And they have one or two instances where they make a connection and they go, I can make money off of this. And then all of a sudden, they're out there doing this for the public,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not ready to do this for the public because they don't know what they're doing. They're not understanding what they're getting or perceiving. So, what is actually happening? Because we want to explain why a medium might be perceiving or understanding information this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because the medium may not have been getting that information incorrectly, but what they did is misinterpret the information
Mm-hmm.
incorrectly. So somebody may have had a fight right before passing. Matt had mentioned that as a possibility of why somebody may be coming forward low vibrational. What spirit does to give us information and evidence of who they are in life, who they were in life. Did you hear what I just said? Who they were in life. They will tell us about things that happened when they were here on earth. So they
Mhm.
might tell us about a fight that you guys had. They might tell us about an unfortunate passing. But they're telling us about things that happened here on earth. And it's very easy for somebody who is underdeveloped, who doesn't understand that they're just giving evidence about what happened. They can perceive that as this is what they're feeling right now.
And I think that we also need to highlight is that, like, I know you said they're telling us, right? But they're not telling us directly. They're
Mhm.
telling us through stimulus. So it could be an emotion, it could be something that we're seeing, smelling, hearing, touching, tasting, feeling, knowing, right? So they're not coming around and be like, I had a fight, and then I go out in the car, and then I drove down to go get some locks. I don't know, whatever it is that they're going to get. It doesn't happen like that. So it happens in fragments of impressions of senses, and then the medium stringing them together and then creating a thing we like to call so delicately at Matt and Tina Incorporated story time. So they're weaving these together, creating a story. So that is how we can misinterpret evidence that comes through. There's another factor of why they would also believe this, and that is the ego. So the ego is a necessary thing that we need to survive in this earth, right? So it can be good and bad. We can't eliminate it. We've talked about this numerous times on the podcast. But sometimes when people are underdeveloped, and especially when you're given the power of being able to speak to spirit, that we feel as the medium that we're all knowing, all powerful, all encompassing, and we always want to be 100% correct, and we never want to fail or have like an instance where we look weak or we look like we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So a lot of the times when mediums are saying that your loved one's too low vibrational, it's because they're actually not connected or being able to sustain the link or be able to pull forward enough evidence or relink, right? So they might drop the link because they get in their active mind and then they can't relink. So it feels like they are having issues pulling the spirit forward. Now, what's really happened is that they're so into their active mind because they're weaving a story and a tale that is so far fetched from the actual stimulus that they're getting that they start pulling themselves away from the spirit world, but the spirit world's always here. Like they're always here. And so the medium has now stepped away from it. And so they can't pick it back up. They can't sense it. So then they're like, well, they're too low vibrational. They don't want to talk. If they were too low vibrational, you wouldn't have gotten anything to begin with. Like point A to point B, it would just never have happened because obviously they're too low vibrational to have a conversation with.
Mhm.
But I want to empower you, dear audience, to ask one simple question. One simple question. You know what that question is, Dana Willie?
Mhm.
Where's the evidence?
Mhm.
If the person that I was reading for stopped me when they said something that was uncomfortable, of where's the evidence that that's true? Now, not the evidence of how they live their lives or anything, but my assumption of like let's say I give an example of like their heaven. Where's the proof in that? Where's the proof? Like, can there be something that I'm saying that can be concrete past the point of what I don't know? Right? As the person receiving the reading. Now, if they were to bring enough evidence to back that up, like let's say a lot of the times when they show me their personal heaven, it's usually like either the happiest part of their life or representing the happiest point in their life or the location of where they would choose to be happy. It will come with evidence to back that up. So they'll give me descriptors that the person over on the other side that's receiving the reading can validate of being like, yeah, he did live in that house. And oh my God, he did have that dog. And oh my God, he was driving around in a Jeep and he really liked that stuff. So there's enough to actually back up what they're saying. So I empower the sitter to go, where's the evidence that that's true? And if the reader can't give you evidence to back that up, it's what now I like to call psychic opinion.
Mhm.
It's just their opinion, and it's a hypothesis. It's a psychic hypothesis of what they assume is going on. It could be furthest from the truth because one thing I know, Dana Willie, is that humans make mistakes. what are psychics and what are mediums when they live in this world? Human.
We're human. Well, you bring up a really good point. And again, why development is really important and why you want to make sure you're choosing a medium or a psychic that is very deep into their development, because it's really important that we leave bias or religion or anything like that at the door. Because a lot of that can also enter into that. So if we have a religious framework that we're looking, or lens that we're looking at all of this through, we may get a piece of information like they feel very distant, and they
Hmm.
feel like they have anger. They're bringing forward anger because you guys had a fight right before they passed.
Hmm.
And I look at that from a religious lens. Maybe my religion talks about hell or things like that. All of a sudden, I have fed my religious dogma into the evidence that I've read. Now, there's no evidence that this person is in hell. The only thing that they said was, we had a fight before, and I'm just making reference to that. But many times, Spirit is actually bringing up that fight because they want to talk about it, because they want to have some healing around the fight. But
Hmm.
an underdeveloped medium is going to stick on that and be like, well, they're holding on to this. They're angry. Like, no, dig into that a little deeper. There's a reason they're bringing that up. And there's probably a message or healing that comes after we talk about that. But an underdeveloped medium might go into some bias or religious lens or, whatever. So we have to make sure that's part of a big part of development is releasing that lens,
Hmm.
releasing, just giving the facts and the facts only. That's something that, you and I really work hard at with working with people that learn under us, is just give the stimuli.
Hmm.
Don't try to interpret it. Don't try to put any of your spin on it, but even just give the color. Don't say blueberry, just say blue. Sometimes it's just like, just go to the base of the stimuli of what you're getting, not trying to interpret it too deeply.
Yeah, it's almost like uploading new information into a computer, right? The computer's only going to recognize what it knows and learns how to sort it. So we
Hmm.
almost want to just go by stimulus rather than trying to make sense of it and
Yeah.
then filing it away as something,
Hmm.
right? So that's the reason a lot of the time why I don't symbolically read, because every stimulus is different per person,
Hmm.
right? And so letting the stimulus speak for itself and is just an easy way to get through it. But what I hear a lot too is if I over explain a piece of evidence, I'm usually wrong. But if I go back to the original stimulus of how it came in, like that color blue, it's usually accurate.
Hmm.
So I want the general public to also know that just because the medium got the stimulus correct does not mean that the added on information could be correct. So I don't want you to fall into the trap that if the spirit would have passed in a negative way, that can be validated. So anything that the psychic says beyond that is true. Just know that, like, yes, they were angry when they passed, but what else?
Hmm.
What else? Because that's not enough evidence beyond the stimulus to back up that low vibrational spirit.
Hmm.
So let the medium keep talking, and you're going to start to see the holes. You're puncturing holes through the story if you're just like, okay, that was correct, but that doesn't feel right.
Hmm.
That was correct, and that doesn't feel right. And you'll start to create your own little dictionary of discernment
Hmm.
around where they are in their unfoldment. And it's not to say that those mediums aren't connected. And I'd never want somebody to feel like what we're saying is devaluing their mediumship. No, it just means that you got to pause and look at the stimulus of what you're delivering. And if the add on information is incorrect and the sitter can't understand that, but you go back and you see the original stimulus, you're in the way of the reading.
Hmm.
Just know that you're in the way of the reading. And that is an easy fix. Just say your stimulus is and don't add on. Like, it needs to be less of you and more of the spirit world. And if you are able to get connected, but you're finding that you're scaring people beyond that, go back to the original stimulus. It's an easy, super easy fix. We're not going to gatekeep that. Um, there was a medium that I saw a long time ago. It was probably about like a year ago. And this medium said that another spirit was trapped or stuck. And when they were doing this, they were doing it during like a paranormal investigative like sit down with a couple. And this guy was really depressed, and he was like, I feel like taking my own life. Like, this is really bad. And the sitter goes, well, thank you for not doing that because you're saving me a lot of work. Do you remember this story?
Mhm.
So then he went on to explain that the spirits were trapped and stuck, and that he was part of a rescue circle. That's very similar to the other aspect of what we just talked about. So I just want to loop that in of being like, this person may have gotten an experience that might have been negative from somebody's life, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're trapped or stuck. So once again, that's like a buzzword of just as an alarm bell for you if you're receiving a reading and they say that to you, to say, where's the evidence of this? And if the person just goes with religious dogma, there is no evidence in that.
Mhm.
There's a belief system, but there is no evidence to prove that your loved one's trapped or stuck. That is a lot of the time that we have to psychically clean up stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And I, again, looking for evidence. And I have to just say, like, I learned under somebody for a while that taught that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I essentially unlearned by leaning into evidence and leaning into, where's the proof? Where's the proof that this
Mm-hmm.
is actually something that's happening? Where's the proof that you have to unstick them, or um,
Earthbound, or
earthbound spirits? And where's the proof around this?
and not knowing that they passed. That's also another like stuck, trapped
Hmm.
scenario.
Yeah. The thing that I think there's a huge misconception of, and something that we get asked a lot is, am I bothering them if I get a mediumship reading? Am I pulling them down from heaven? Am I pulling them around away from what they're supposed to be doing? I think for me, and there's no proof of this, but for me, my experience is essentially that heaven is around us. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
they have the capability to be in more than one place at one time. It's not like they're, I call this affectionately our meat suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
As humans, we're kind of stuck in our meat suit, until we're no longer here. When we go into the spirit world, we're free, and we can be in multiple places at one time. So your loved one can be with you, and they can also be with your mom, and they can be with their sister, and they can be all over the place, right? And they can also be in their own personal heaven all at the same time. And they're
Mm-hmm.
not limited by time or space or anything like that. So I kind of feel like the afterlife is still around us. They're around us all the time. They're literally a thought away. And so it's not bothering them. It's not like, disrupting their peace or their rest, or, or disrupting the dead or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. Because I know that that's a question we get a lot of, is it upsetting my loved one if I get a lot of mediumship readings, which we don't want to, have you guys getting tons of mediumship readings. That's not helpful for you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not bothering them if you talk to them a lot or anything like that, because they're always around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that doesn't mean that they're stuck.
No, I I I have a hypothesis. Now currently working on this hypothesis to get enough evidence to prove this is like true and my truth. So it's still working, but I think it's kind of like finding it in the mundane. Like, where can we find the spirit world in the mundane, and how electricity and energy works, right?
Mhm.
And so understanding that they are energy and that energy cannot be created nor destroyed
Mhm.
is rooted in mediumship, because we're speaking to energy. It's an energy transaction. And one thing that I've realized is that the atmosphere itself has electricity, and that's how lightning happens, right? So you have lightning in the atmosphere, and you have charging ions and all that cool stuff. But I kind of associate the spirit world to almost be like a cellophane wrap on the earth,
Mhm.
of being like, it is a clear plastic wrap that is encompassing where we currently are, and we can't see it, but it's there. And it's just an energy level that or a frequency that we just can't see. But we also can't see cell phone Wi Fi. We can't see oxygen unless we add something to the oxygen to be able to see it. So there is a lot of things that can be rooted in fact. And that's kind of where I kind of lay the spirit world of being, is that they're always here, but they're not here at the same time because we
Mhm.
can't see, smell, touch, or taste them unless we become the conduit. And there's that science word,
Mhm.
conduit, to be able to pick up that information by becoming sensitive to it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I see the spirit world. Now, can they be trapped or stuck? In science, you can't trap or stick energy at all.
Mhm.
And why would it naturally, right? Unless we have something like a transformer, right? But that's something that's man created. Man created that. But
Mhm.
scientifically, you can't trap or contain energy without something like that. So
Mhm.
I can't think of the word I just
Like a
used. A
transformer.
transformer, right? But even then, the transformer only holds energy for a small amount of time until it's used somewhere else. So it can go other places. Plus, they look at transformers of admitting energy from it, that it's not safe to live next to a transformer. So
Mhm.
it's still admitting energy. So we've got to look at the rules of the science. And I think that's why I love spiritual mediumship, not so much like the new age mediumship, is that we can root things and prove it. I'm all for it. And so, like, looking at like the trapped and stuck spirits, a friend of ours once said, if they're closer to source, and source is energy and God, why would they need somebody in a meat suit to move them from one place to another? Because they're closer to source than we are. So
Mhm.
I always like to say, and I'm rambling, I'm so sorry, Dana, that man loves to control something that is higher than them, because we have an ego that we need to be the highest person on the food chain, and if anything below above us um, is higher than us, that we have the need to try to control it, to put ourselves above it once more.
Mhm.
And that is the human ego all at work, that
Mhm.
we don't like to feel insecure with ourselves, so we
Mhm.
like to make ourselves look bigger than we actually are. So a
Mhm.
lot of when people are saying people are trapped or stuck, or they like cross spirits over and they're a rescue circle, that's just them needing to feel important and stronger than they actually are. Because really, at the end of the day, if you were able to do that, you can escape death.
Mhm.
You are almighty. You're essentially playing God yourself, and nobody is God.
Mhm.
We're all a part of it, but we're not that entity
Yeah.
itself. We're connected to it. So I think it's almost like swallowing our pride a little bit, of saying, yeah, there are some things that you just can't control. We can't control the weather. We've tried, we can't do it. We can't control um, the human um, mortality, right? We're not immortal. We've tried to, we can't do it. So there's things that we just can't do that are greater than us. And I think it's kind of like looking at the tidal wave coming towards us and just surrendering that it is more powerful than us and it can take us out, because Mother Nature is all powerful and we can't control that. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Do you understand the trail I'm trying to crawl
Mhm.
down?
The trail you're trying to crawl down. Yeah. No, I think that we as humans want to understand and we want to control,
Hmm.
right? I think that there's also the perception of a lot of, and I understand it, right? Like you going back to what you said, it's you're talking to somebody who's talking to somebody that you can't see or think, whatever.
Hmm.
And so there becomes this thing of like, I'm doing something that, so you kind of get put on a pedestal, or you kind of like,
Yeah.
and that's never a good dynamic, right?
That
That's never a good
that's
dynamic. And so we always want to be responsible with this work, and we always want to be responsible with the information that we're given, and we never want to put our own spin or
mm-mm.
anything like that, because again, like I said, there ends up being a lot of cleanup that has to happen when people put their own bias, prejudice on the information that's coming in from the spirit world. And you know I hate to say it this way, but it also gets bastardized. And we've seen, if you look at the history of mediumship, we've seen amazing mediums of the past kind of go down a route because money got tight or pressure got put on them. It's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to go down a path in this work. So, we got to keep it on the up and up. And you have to make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons. You've got to make sure you're going with somebody for the right reasons. And, I think that there's a lot of people that try to choose the right medium for them. Um, I think, back to the instance that you referenced earlier, this is a person that is named and well respected in the industry. This person tried to do their due diligence. And that happens. But I think always being an advocate for yourself, because I am speaking to the person getting the reading, whenever, no matter who it is, no matter how many followers, if they're on TV, if no matter what station you think they are in their development, if it doesn't feel safe to you, if you don't feel good about what's coming forward, please be an advocate for yourself. Just because the medium is talking to somebody you can't see or hear, continue to be an advocate for yourself. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I want to empower people with, that it's okay to be like, this isn't resonating with me. I don't feel safe in this place. And it's also okay to like take 80% of something and leave 20% of it behind.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering that even the most developed mediums with the best hearts are still human, and we're going to sometimes get in the way and misinterpret things wrong. So if it doesn't resonate, it's okay to leave it aside.
I love that you reiterated the word advocate for yourself. Speak up. Speak up in your reading. I encourage you. If there's something that a medium is saying that you're not sure of, you can stop them and say, please explain that more. Please provide me evidence that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Please, give me a moment to digest what you just said, because it's a kind of like sitting there. I think a lot of us kind of go into panic mode, but it's almost like a doctor saying to you that's not really working. As I don't know how to word this, but it's almost like a doctor saying you've got X, Y, and Z and not getting a second opinion. But it's also not stopping the doctor and being like, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you please slow
Explain.
down
Mm-hmm.
and repeat what you just said? Because I usually go with Sassy J to the doctor sometimes, where it's like we're in this like word salad moment because we're so in shock. And you can even admit like and say that to your thing, like, I'm like flabbergasted right now, and I think anything that you're gonna say to me is gonna go one ear and down the other because my brain is in panic right now. Can you just give me a moment and then stop it and then ask questions and stop the reading? Like, stop the reading. Don't let the medium continue until you are sure and clarified exactly what they mean and what they mean it, and that they have evidence to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
Because by doing that, you're taking your power back of saying, this is my reading. This is not just them just regurgitating whatever. Because later on, they're just going to move on to somebody else, and you're going to be the one thinking about your reading when that medium's already moved on to somebody else. So advocate for yourself. You're spending good money, good time, and this is your loved one. So empower yourself to stop the reading and ask questions.
Absolutely. And I think even free readings, there's people that
Mm-hmm.
offer free readings, and sometimes you get what you pay for. But like at any point when somebody is in your energy and it doesn't feel safe to have somebody in your energy, or you have questions, you get to either stop things. It doesn't matter whether money is on the line or not. You get to stop things and ask questions. What does that mean? I think that that's also a huge responsibility for a medium or psychic to only use terms that they can explain. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that that happens a lot in the spiritual community, where a lot of terms get tossed around and everybody starts using them. But it happens a lot where people don't really understand what the terms that they're using mean. So
Mm-hmm.
if you ask a question and they can't answer what a term means or what something that is going to happen or whatever it means, that's a huge red flag. that you need to run away. Like if they can't explain what they mean by something or what a term that they're using means, it's a huge red flag to advocate for yourself, to get a refund, to stop the reading, to do whatever you need to. Because I think, again, you have to empower yourself. And while, mediums are talking to something that you're not having access to, we all have access to it. And there are thousands and thousands of other options out there. Please, please, please empower and advocate for yourself. I cannot say this enough. And as a reader myself, you're not going to hurt my feelings if at some point in our reading space you're like, Dana, I'm not feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Refund, rebook, reschedule.
Mm-hmm.
There is a term that I want to clear up, Dana Willie, because I see this used over and over and over again on readings that usually fall flat, and that is, oh, this is a strong energy. Like I see a lot of readers use that, and they don't use it in a proper way. And what I mean in a proper way is if the energy is so strong, if you're telling me, because I know mediumship, that the energy is so strong, you should be able to pull some fire evidence from that strong energy, because the energy is what's communicating with you. So you should be able to pull names, dates, street addresses, memories, the way that they stood, the way that they talked. Like there should be indications that, like, if you're feeling that strong energy, you should be able to deliver it. But usually when I see a medium, and I'm just gonna, you want to see my acting skills? Okay, you ready? So the medium will be like, oh, this is such a strong energy. Oh my goodness. Like that is like over dramatic. We've now had a reaction to a strong stimulus, but that doesn't mean the energy is strong. We might have a strong emotional reaction, or we might feel overwhelmed by an emotion, but that doesn't mean that the energy is strong. They're just giving you a stimulus reaction. But a lot of the times when you see a medium go, oh, they're in their head. They've now popped up from their heart space or wherever their energy source is into their head, and they pulled themselves away. So like that is like, we need to watch when we're saying that to somebody, because if somebody doesn't know mediumship, they're going to be like, oh my God, my loved one's here. No, you just had a strong reaction. So really kind of being mindful, even when we're even saying that small stuff like strong energy, girl, you better pull out his FICO score next time you say that.
Yeah. No, that's one of my pet peeves. And it's okay if you're feeling a lot clairsentiently, but start describing what that is. What are the sensations you're feeling? Because there's nuance in that, right?
Oh,
You
100%.
can definitely be like, let's say I'm strongly feeling something in my heart. Like that doesn't mean that, like, maybe this person was very soft spoken, but they're really pronouncing something strongly in the heart. And maybe it's very emotional that I'm feeling, but maybe they were very soft spoken. So by saying like, oh my God, this energy is really strong, our words like that again are misinterpretation of the evidence. And as you said, it's getting used to energy.
Yes.
A lot of readers will speak on the clairsentient things, and for those of you that are newer to these terms, that means feeling sensations. So clairsentience can mean emotions, so we might feel the emotions coming through, but we might also feel sensations. So we might feel tingles, we might feel something on one side of our body or another. We might feel like, oh, if there was a stroke, we might feel pain in our head, or we might feel pain in our heart if there was a heart attack, or we might get other sensations in our body. Those are all clairsentient things. And that is our superpower as mediums, because feeling is the language of spirit. So, and if you want to go back to our episode on the power, as we get more information, those feelings are going to, the clairsentience is going to get stronger and stronger.
Correct.
Because the power is going to grow. So that's really normal. So somebody that may not be as developed is going to probably speak on that a little bit. But even as the power is driving, you might see somebody, and I do it every once in a while, where I'm like, I know I'm right because I feel he's making me know that I am on the right track with this, because I can feel it, blah, 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 blah. But if they're saying a lot of what they're feeling, but they're not bringing forward evidence, that tells me a lot that they're either in their mental mind or they haven't really developed enough, because they should be bringing information along with that feeling.
That or they're recognizing the blend,
Yeah.
right? So the spirit's getting closer to them, they're recognizing the blend, but that doesn't mean necessarily the spirit's strong. They're actually starting to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, which is great, which is
Which is
beautiful.
awesome.
That's the beginning part of creating the link
Right.
with the spirit communicator.
As you develop, though, you learn how to utilize that power and that power blend to bring forward more evidence. But when we're acknowledging it, like, I don't know about you, Dana, really, but as somebody that's gone through development, I'm no longer in the room for the stuff that's happening to me for me to have a reaction to anything that's going on anymore. Like, it's become a common thing, right? So if you are noticing that you're having reactions and you're commenting on like the commentary of how it's happening to you during the reading, you're pulling yourself away from the spirit world. Surrender. Oh my God, I hate that word. Trust what's happening to you, but don't kind of like bring yourself an attention to it, right? It's not acknowledging it. It's utilizing what's the next piece of information as it's coming in. And your body will have a reaction to that stimulus, but that's the indication, like Dana Willie said, that you're on the right track of saying exactly what they want you to say.
Well, you almost, you want to like go acknowledge it, like, ooh, I feel that, and I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
Because we don't, as soon as we harness into that, then we're in our active mind and we're more of a part of the reading than we should be.
Exactly. And you can speak to it a little bit. And so like an indication, and I'm going to role play again, of I feel this really immense tingle on the left side of my body. And as I'm leaning into this, and I'm actually physically leaning my body into it, I'm feeling like this person would be very excited to be here. And they would be very excitable. Would you understand? Like, they're making me feel like they want to go, wee! Like, that's what they did in life. Do you understand that? Like, I'm going to feel into why I'm feeling it. Because there's nuance to everything. There's nuance. And I think with underdeveloped mediums or mediums that just refuse development, they don't capture that there's actually nuance to everything. And they're not just kind of being like, well, they're not just showing me or making me feel that for a reason. What is the reason why you feel that strong energy?
Yeah.
Not just because you're feeling it and that they're here, right? Because usually when somebody's like, they're strong, ooh, I feel, it's just almost like an illusion, and they're like pulling the curtain over it to just go, look at here, step right up, right? It's like almost like a stage performance.
Yeah.
Let's pull back that curtain. Why are you feeling that? There's a reason why they're making you feel that. So why? What's the evidence? Why? Right? So bring it forward. Utilize that feeling in a way that's going to be evidence to prove maybe a personality trait. Right?
I always
That's
say
nuance.
that like a lot of I don't remember most of my readings.
Yeah.
I don't. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, hey, what did you mean by XYZ? Or like, did you mean this? And I was like, I don't remember what I said. I'm like, I have no idea.
Hey, the same shit happened to me too. They emailed me and they're like, hi, I had a reading from 2 months ago. What did you mean by that? I'm like, I don't know. Did you watch back the reading? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, well, I don't remember your loved one at all. Does the mailbox remember your bill from 4 months ago? Because I don't remember your reading.
But that's, I mean, and it's not because we don't love you guys.
Yeah.
Like, I tend to remember your faces. Like, if I've read for you in a Zoom, I will remember your face. But I do not remember the readings. I do not, if there's something, like I might, it's funny because if I connect with the same loved one again, as I'm like in the middle of the reading, I'm like, hey.
I've met you before.
We've met before. Hey, weren't you back in 1982? Yeah.
Girl, I remember you. But really, the only time I remember readings is when I watch them back, but I don't remember the actual interaction with the spirit world. I just remember watching it back like you guys would, of being like, oh, that was cool. That was awesome. Oh, I see him in my head here.
Yeah, I will watch some of my readings back when I can to just...
We try to learn.
Yeah, I try to learn from watching my readings back. Same thing, like, oh, held onto that piece of information way too long, or I read into that too much. Because here's the thing, let's go full circle back. Because I think, we intended on making this episode for the people receiving readings. But also, I think all of our content is always for the developing medium.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything, Matt and I preach on this hugely. Matt and I consider ourselves developing mediums forever. There's always room for growth. There's always room for flexibility in our growth and our understanding of what the hell is happening. We are experiencing something we can't touch, see, feel. Like, we just get these little glimpses. I always explain mediumship as ghost charades, right? You're just getting these like random pieces of information, and it's not like a phone call. There's no specific timeline. We jump all over the places. One second we're talking about Skittles, the next time we're talking about Alabama, then all of a sudden we're talking about heart disease, and next time we're talking about grandma. Like, it's all over the place in a mediumship reading. That's the surrender of being okay with like going bonkers, and all of a sudden you're getting an image, and then you're feeling something, then you hear something, and then something, and you're all over the board. So the more flexible that we can be in our mediumship, the more we're going to surrender, the more we're going to learn, the more we're going to develop. And yeah, I watch back my readings so that I can work on developing. I do still show up for mentorship and work. I am still showing up for my education, because I think that we can always do better. So I empower all of you to do better.
Yes. And I want to add it on. You know what it's like to be a medium and then make an assumption about the other side? I figured this out. It just came to me. Thanks, Spirit. Boop. It is like doing a puzzle. Okay. So making our assumptions. So if any medium's like, this is what the afterlife is like, I want you to remember this, that we are getting a whale puzzle. And every reading is just mailing us a little piece. And it's like a 2 million. It's a 2 million piece
and they're
puzzle.
all blue.
And they're all blue. And we're putting it together. And then we may get the like eye of a whale and then make an assumption that it's a whale. But by the end of our life, when we've crossed over, we realize it's actually a chimpanzee cage puzzle.
Yeah, the whole
Right?
time. The whole
time. So like, that's kind of why we always want to go with, what is the experience of what the spirit world is telling me? Not so much, and I'm not saying trust your churches and trust your pastor. If that's your faith, trust your faith. But what I want you to do is go by your experience and have your faith validate that, of being like, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm getting. And then if I'm getting contradictory information over here, I have the choice to either accept it or put it down. And that goes for anybody, including our podcast. So if this resonates for you, great. If it doesn't, great. Like, it does not, it's no skin off my back. But what I want you to do is go by your experience. Has this happened to you? Is this coming from your perspective and experience with the interaction? Or is it an add-on from an outside source? Who told you that? And then can it be validated through evidence? So with that, folks, that's all I got to say.
Yeah. Empower yourself. If something doesn't make sense, ask questions, be flexible, advocate. You got this.
And like the great In Vogue said, free your mind and the rest will follow.
Vogue, 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 Vogue.
Well, we love you all. You're in our hearts. Do something nice for yourself, God damn it.
You are the light of 100,000 pink light bulbs. I don't know.
I love that.
Right, bye.
See ya. Malibu mansion sold separately.